To say the Austin-Healey has a special appeal to me would be a major understatement. I've loved these cars from the first one I saw, and today I'm the proud owner of number 598, a 1953 BN1. So when I heard that Gerry Coker was going to be at the 2008 Austin-Healey Conclave in San Diego, I had to go. Not only did I want to meet Mr. Coker, I wanted to sit down, talk with him, and videotape the entire conversation. Gerry Coker turned out to be one of the most gracious and entertaining gentlemen I have ever had the pleasure to meet. Throughout the event, he took the time to talk with a room full of people, sign everything that was placed before him, all the while connecting on a personal level with those presenting their mementos.
Thank you very much.
He handed out awards, and he posed for pictures, and he did this all with a constant smile. Like I said, quite the gentleman. And now, here's my conversation with Gerry Coker.
I was looking for a new job, and a friend of mine, an Italian engineer who I'd worked under as an apprentice at Humber, and incidentally, he designed the first Healey chassis with a train link suspension. I didn't know that at the time, but anyhow, I met him, and he said, "How's everything going?" And I said, "Well, I'm looking for a different job." So he said, "Right, well," he said, "it's just, you might be interested. A friend of mine's looking for an engineer, a body engineer." So I said, "Oh, well." He said, "Yes." He says, "Donald Healey," which really didn't ring much of a bell to me. And so he said, "I'll arrange an interview for you at his home in Leamington," which he did. So I went along and showed Donald the sort of things I was doing, and I had sketches of cars that I'd done, just fun
Okay.
stuff. And that was like a fun hobby, drawing cars. And he said, "Yes, I think you'd fit in very well as the engineer on the new Nash Healey that were being produced near Birmingham. The bodies would be come in unfinished, and they would be fitted onto a Healey chassis and painted and trimmed and finished off there before they went to the dealer." And so it was my job to supervise these or oversee the production of these new Nash Healey bodies, cars shown. And so that's what I went for. And I did little updates on them, and I'd say to him, "That doesn't look quite right. Do you think we should change these?" He said, "Well, can you do that?" And I said, "Yes, I'll do that." So I'd do a drawing and change the stuff and so on. Well, and that's the way it went. And one day he said, "I'm going to thinking of making a car between the XK120 and the MG. There's a market in there, I think." And he'd just come back from a visit to Nash in America to do with the engines. And so he said, "Give it a try, see what sort of shape you can come up with." So that's the first thing I really styled from 1950 until 1957. And I haven't styled anything since, because I'm not a stylist, you see. I'm an engineer. And that's when we left Healey, which I went in as their engineer, and I was still their engineer when I left. I didn't go up or down or anywhere. So we decided it's time we got out of there. And this same friend that introduced me, that said, "You want to go to America, you'd like that, you'd like the weather," and so on, which of course, that's 50 years ago, which of course we did. So then I went to Chrysler as an engineer in their styling, and then I went to Ford's as an engineer in their styling. But I really started styling and finished it with Donald Healey. I've done all his cars from 1950 to 57. So the Streamliner for the salt flats, 100S, his own personal coupe, the 106, And that's, things in between that were never produced, made, or whatever, or partly made and dropped and things like that. I've finally convinced him that this is the shape, this is the best shape I can do. He keeps saying, can you come up with something else? And I can't come up with anything else. This is it. So he was going off on a trip to America, and he said, well, I'll be off for a couple of weeks, see what else you can come up with. Well, after 2 weeks, I decided I couldn't come up with anything better than I had, and I've got to convince him. So I'll cut out a full-size shape, pin it on the board, on the wall. I had this huge drawing board, pin it on there at ground level, and then when he comes in, there it is. Well, he comes in, and there it is. And he says, oh, you're still trying to sell that then? And I said, yes. I said, that's the best I can do. That's it, the best I can do. So he said, well, all right then, we'll go that way then. So he walks out, and he says, oh, I want a fold flat windshield on that. So I said, well, how can I put a fold flat windshield on the scuttle that's folding one way and the curved windshield's folding the other? And he said, well, you'll think of something. And the door slammed, he'd gone. So, well, the only way I could do it, of course, it's not one of these, it didn't take me a minute to figure it out, it took some time to decide how I can do it. And I decided the only thing really I can do is to take the windshield off the whole body with a linkage and lower it. So that's how it got there. And of course, it looked good. May not be very good, but it looked good. But it does, if you've got a 100-mile-an-hour car, it'll put another 6 miles on it by reducing the frontal area, reducing the resistance. And so, I mean, it does help.
Right. Yeah.
Although anyone that's got one moan because all the flies go in their eyes, of course they don't think they could wear goggles because there's no windshield there. They were pretty expensive to do, I think, and they're very easy to break, It's a two-man job. And you don't do it every day before you go to work and then put it up when you get there. It's a once in a while fun thing. The ones with the windshields down, I mean, that's the car to have. Of course, I would say that.
Oh.
But, that's what everybody tells me. Then he had to get somebody in that could build it. So he gets in onto Tickford's. They made Aston Martins, Austin-Healeys, big company in coach builders in England. He gets hold of them. They come out and look at the drawings, and see, I do it. I forget what scale, a 3/8 scale or quarter scale or something like that, and then transfer everything onto a full-size board behind me. So they've got a scale drawing. That's how I styled the cars. Normally, a stylist does a picture, used to do a picture and make it so that it looks better than it is. Especially the Italians would have on their renderings, they'd have huge wheels and a very sleek body on these wheels. Well, we didn't have time for that, so before I started, told him, or asked him, I said, the only way I can do this really, so that you can see exactly what you're going to do, I'll do it in scale. So I'll do scale side view, scale front view, scale rear view, scale plan view, and then what you see is exactly what you'll get. So that's what I did. I mean, I could change a line 1/8 of an inch in the curve or something, makes a big difference, which I'd spent a lot of time doing that, changing a curve a little bit, the rear fender. I'd leave on Friday night for the weekend and come back Monday thinking that's it, and come back Monday, that isn't it at all. Nearly, but it's not quite it. So he brings the Tickford people in, they look at it, show them the drawings, they explain this, that and the other. So they get the job. So I go over there with the drawings and stay there for 2 or 3 days a week and they've got their surface layout draftsman that they lay out the surface exactly from my drawings, and then they transfer it and make a wooden car, and put metal aluminum around the edges for hammering the cockpit and so on. So that's how that came. I've forgotten how long it took, probably 6 months or something before the thing was, maybe a bit longer. I don't really remember. Okay. But I didn't. The thing is that I designed the whole car, all the badges and the instrument panel and the seats, and which is a bit unusual to have one guy just design everything, and the straps that open the door and all that stuff. So they did all that, and the front, your grille, the early Healeys were narrow like that. And I said to him that, we should try and get your original shape in there somehow or other. I'll do the front with your original shape, which is distinctive, and people will know that that's a Healey coming down the road, not something else. So that was fine. The thing is that with a prototype and limited amount of funds, when it's made, that's it. There it is. You better like it. It's not like Ford or GM or any of these people who can throw it in the scrapyard or make a huge scale clay model and colour it and so on. So the thing comes in, and I really didn't like the grill, but I thought, well, tough, I've done it. And he didn't like it either. Well, he didn't mind at first, but eventually he didn't like it. So he said he's getting near to Earl's Court to show this car, which was make it or bust type of thing. And he said, I'm not going to show the car, I've changed my mind. So I said, well, that was a damn shame after all that work. And he said, well, I don't like the grille. And I said, well, I don't either. It's too narrow. It needs another couple of inches on each side. But I said, there it is. And he said, could you change it, do you think, in a week? And I said, oh, yes. I didn't say all you need is money, but that's, that's what it amounts to. So we changed the grille, and he still didn't like it. So when it got to the show, he said, shove that car up against all the potted palms and things. I don't like the front. I don't want people to see the front of that car, which is pretty ridiculous, really. There's this, then, beautiful rear end sticking out of these bushes, and nobody could see the front. So all the automotive journalists said, why is it rammed up against the bushes, ornamental shrubs? He said, I don't like the front. They said, well, you better drag it out because everybody else does. So then they dragged it out, and of course eventually it finished up as the star of the show with the barricade all round it. So you couldn't beat that. And then the best bit was, of course, I all admired Italian designs, you see, so that influenced me. And the best bit to me was when one of the motoring journalists said, who was the Italian who designed your car? So that he told me that. He said, you're right. He said, one of the guys said, who's the Italian? He said, oh, I just told him just a young local lad did it. Oh, yes, yeah. The head of the Austin Motor Company, and we were using his engine, transmission, rear axle, when he first saw the car, he said, you can never make that. You'll never make it. You'll have too many orders, which they were. People were all there. He said, I'll make the car. So Healey said, well, yes, but as long as you don't change anything on it, he said, no, it'll look just like that. And it did. Well, it didn't quite, but only it looked exactly like it, except for your small instrument panel. Well, that was chrome. but it had satin chrome stripes across it, just to make it a bit more like a piece of jewellery. So these satin chrome stripes across it, then that's the only thing that was different. When it came out, that was plain chrome, I think, or silver. But otherwise, it's just the same. Although the headlamps had to be lifted because they didn't meet the American standards, or, you know, there are standards there. I can't remember whether I did it to the British standard height or the American standard. Whichever it was wrong. Or wasn't wrong, it was done to the information we had. Then from there, everything went fine. He thought that we were losing sales because people said, well, I'd buy one, but I can't get my kids in the back. He said, I can't get my kids in it. So he said, see if you put 2 inches in the wheelbase, see if you can get 2 kids in it. So I made up a little cardboard mannequins, had guys in the shop measure their kids, you know, for joints, and made the little cardboard mannequin, put 2 inches in the wheelbase, and put this mannequin in behind, and drew it and showed him, and you could sit little kids in there, up to about 10 or something. So he said, oh, that's good enough. So they made it. That's how that got there. Well, while I was doing the Sprite, Don comes in one day. Now, it's stupid, really. He can't stand the other front I did, and he wants me to go out to Jensen's and change the front they're doing because it's such a mess. So he comes in and says, Gerry, he said, you get out to Jensen's as soon as you can. He said, they're really messing up the front of the car. Well, I'd never seen the car or anything. He says, whatever you do something with it, but you can't change any sheet metal. So I go up there and see their chief designer, Eric Neal, which is a bit embarrassing, really, to say, you screwed up with the front end, I've come out to put you right. You can't say that, but that's what it was. So I went out and saw Eric Neal. I said, Don doesn't like the front, so I've come to see if I can do something he might like. Well, the front, if you know what an Austin A40 convertible looks like, it's got no, it's an oval in the front with a metal wrapped over, and the grille sits behind the sheet metal. You know, the front of the car's like this, and the grille's behind the sheet metal like that. And it looked to me as though somebody pushed the front in. Well, they can't change the sheet metal, so what I did was bring the grille from there like that, and then put this chrome top over it. That's how the chrome top got there. So that's what I did with that. That was it. And I put the chrome thing round the snout opening on top, and that was it. The grille was wrong for it. It was like an Austin Westminster grille with wavy horizontal lines, which for a Healey were into vertical lines. So why would I care? You know, they're already screwing it up. So it didn't occur to me to say, you know, the grille's all wrong as well. And now I thought back, I'd like to have said that, but I never thought of it. I thought, well, I've got him out of that mess. He's got the wrong. It wasn't until after I thought they're using the wrong grill texture, but still. So there we are. So that was it. Well, that was the last thing I had to do with the big Healeys. We used to get a car occasionally, and my wife and I, and being in England, it'd be raining like hell, and we used to put raincoats on backwards, plastic, so that the water dripped in our laps and ran off. With the top and the side curtains up.
That's the truth. That is the truth.
It's all the truth.
That's funny.
She's sitting there saying it's a load of BS he's telling you, but that is actually true.
That is the truth. I know, but it's personally.
You know, this plastic raincoat and your sleeves in here, and
So you've got some miles in the Healey underneath you too, then?
Yes.
That's funny.
They presented me with that last night. That's the Sprite prototype I did, but the Sprite that came out had these huge headlamps on. Well, Bill Mead, he's the originator of the 100M Club, figured that they should have done what I wanted, you see, and they didn't. And he thinks the thing's so awful with these headlamps. So he had this model made of how it would look if it had been done to the original with the retracting lamps. None. No. I've had Porsche, Aston Martin, we've got an S-Type Jaguar at the moment, so no. I've driven plenty. We spent our Healey money on a Jaguar, that's the way, because it's, you know, it doesn't leak and it's got air conditioning and so on. So. Well, they're simple, aren't they? I mean, there's proven engine and everything else, as long as they're looked after. Well, they were used in taxi cabs, tractors, things like that. We felt that if it looks right, it is right. Which usually is the case.
Yeah.
I did this Bonneville car, the first one with the... You've seen pictures of the first one with the fin on it. He wanted a... he thought, I think I'm going to try for some Bonneville records. So see what you can come up with for a shape. So I came up with this shape. And nothing to do with the car as it was, just same wheelbase, but a shape that I thought was right for 200 miles an hour. Made a clay model, took it to Armstrong Whitworth Aircraft, which is near Coventry where we lived, and they wind tunnel tested it. They had all the information from Jeff Healey for horsepower and stuff like that, and said yes, it would do 200 miles an hour with the power they were giving it. Fine, so I'll get the clay model back, and then Don said, no, I can't make it, they won't spend the money on it. So he said, to get a regular 100 and change it, see what you can do with the shape. So I shaped the front and the rear, and looked a bit bare to me. So I said, it looks a bit bare. Do you mind if I put a dorsal fin on the back, small one, that jazz it up a bit? And he said, yeah, okay. So the dorsal fin does nothing, but it sure as hell makes the car look good. So those sort of things, and little things like that that big companies don't do. It's going to be sprayed silver blue with a crimson stripe on the side, which I go down and put the tape on the car and say to the painter, there it is, fill it up with red. And that's how that gets there. All these little things make it interesting. The Americans wanted to two-tone the car. Now, we in England, we weren't into two-toning, them flamboyant stuff. So, I mean, I took the sideline to the wheel opening, and that's it. How you don't jump across a gap and put another line on there. It goes there, but they wanted to two-tone it, and they had no guide to follow the paint line. So that was why that was put in. If they said to me, do you want a car? I'd say, well, it's got to be the same as the one that was on display in London that was successful, and that's ice blue. So that's the original colour of the car, was ice blue with a dark blue interior.
Oh, interesting.
So that's the really, to me, the original colour, and you know what made it successful. But there are a lot of other nice combinations. It could be green and white, or it could be a fantastic colour combination. And no, I don't have a favourite one. He wanted something to, like a shocker, for one of the shows, and we go through the book, and like there was yellow and black, and pink and black. Well, who'd buy a pink and black car? But people would certainly look at it, and that's about how that was done. Today's cars are all very smooth. You know, if you run round to the front, you can see what it is. Some don't even have a badge on the front.
Yeah.
No, they do. They're very smooth. Actually, the older cars, like the old American cars, 50s and before, they were beautiful inside. You know, fantastic, rich instrument panels, all this chrome and recessed instruments, all the interesting stuff. Now, what do you got? Dull, boring. Very nice, very nicely done, but until I got to Healeys, I'd never designed a whole car. You know, when somebody says you've never designed, it's all right sketching stuff when you're at home and when somebody says design me a car, you think, well, where do I start with that, you know?
Yeah, really.
You think, well, I've said a bit too much and now I've got it. You always want to design a car, right, do it. And if we're lucky, we'll sell one. What we thought we might sell 2 or 3 a month. That was the hope. Now they're worth more than they were then. You know, you just do what you think I like. I do what I think I'd like, and then convince Donald Healey that this is what I think we should do. And he'd look at it and say, yeah, it looks, doesn't say it looked pretty good, he'd say, yes, all right, that's it. Well, he's not an excitable person. He looked at me once or twice and said, Gerry, you're fired. But he didn't fire me, but...
Good thing.
Yes, right. No. Well, you don't, do you? Just do your job and move on, and that's it.
I went to San Diego to talk with Gerry Coker about him designing the Austin-Healey, and he corrected me with,
You're talking about styling cars.
after getting to know Mr. Coker, I left San Diego with a much better understanding about the origin of the Austin-Healey style. Thank you, Gerry.